Hey everybody, thanks for joining us here at the Milt Talk Podcast. I'm Jack Stroman, and I'm here with my co-hosts Warner Williams, Agoy Mbima, and Jessica Corrado Platt. We all graduated from a private boarding school that was founded by the chocolate mogul Milton Hershey and his wife Catherine. In this show, we'll be talking with some of the former students, their family members, and loved ones, in addition to former employees, teachers, and administrators who all worked there at some point in time. We'll get to hear their stories in their own words, and it's our hope and wish that you'll hear something in these stories that you can relate to, whether you went to the school or not. Enjoy. You had jams?
I had jams, I had parachute pants, I had Zeke Cavaricis, I had shell top Adidas, I mixed it all.
Had the flavor.
Back then,
John Mueller, class of 1992, and we were in Student Home Iroquois, which back then was a intermediate division, which was 5th through 8th grade student home. And I think we met
1984. August 15th,
See,
1984.
That's impressive. You remember the date.
That day, you show up, they take you to the central, not central booking, but the central kitchen area. You get all your clothes.
Clothing fitting.
Yeah, clothing fitting. They give you a big gray bucket, and you just feel, you didn't even know. I don't think I even processed. I was 9 years old. I just drove up with my sister and I from Florida.
Which is where you're originally from?
Yeah, Fort Lauderdale is where I was born and grew up. And so my mom, I think, we took a 2-day trip to get up there. And that first day, they give you a big gray bucket, and you go around this warehouse. And I never had a suit jacket before. 3 different types of belts. I had these, they look like Vans, house shoes.
Yep.
Checkered, they gave me checkered pants for my house clothes. I had separate clothes to play in. I had separate clothes to wear to church. And but that night, I'll never forget, I said goodbye to my mom, and I can't really remember that, but I remember going to Hershey Park, the entire student home, going to Hershey Park. And I thought this was heaven.
Free Hershey Park?
I got instantaneous. I don't know how many kids we had in Iroquois. 12, 16?
Somewhere, I think it was 14. I think there were 7 rooms with two beds per room. I just don't remember if we were full at the time.
Right. Yeah. So it's like the homesickness. It was like I was still like not even processing that. It's going to Hershey Park. I'd never been to an amusement park in my life. Right. And to go to somewhere like that with all these new kids, new friends and stuff, I thought it was great.
Halfway across the country.
Yes.
You were in Fort Lauderdale. You moved up to Hershey. You graduated in 1992. I know you were in Iroquois. We were in Iroquois together with the Mays. And then I was 2 years older than you?
Yes, I think you were 7th grade and I was 5th grade when we first met.
So when I went up to senior division, you were just telling me, I had no idea that they closed our student home and you moved to Dogwood.
Right. Yeah, the Mays, I think, retired from house parenting. Mr. May was a big, handy woodworking type guy. I think he went to work in the school's carpentry shop, and then Miss May went to work at the central kitchen.
The food service.
Yeah,
I remember. Yeah,
with the food truck, the food vans. I forget what we called those.
Meal buses.
Meal buses. Right. How could I forget that?
Can you tell the people what a meal bus was?
Yeah. So a meal bus. So we have a central kitchen, which is interesting for all of these student homes. You have one place where they kind of make all the food, and then they put them in these stainless steel canisters. What do we call those things? Meal buckets or
Warner?
I don't remember the name of them.
I just remember Brilloing them.
Yes.
They had to be Brilloed.
Kettles.
Yes. So you would get like, chicken pot pie or mashed potatoes. Never real potatoes, by the way. They were instant, or you get succotash or some of these things. It would all be cooked centrally. They'd put it in these kettles. They'd stack them 4 or 5 high, and then they'd go out on these meal buses. And there's these big white, they look like UPS trucks, but they're white, right. And they're chock full of kettles, and they would circle around between 4:30 and 5 and feed the entire school.
Yeah.
And it was fascinating. You look back on it now and you think about it, it's like the logistics. of doing all that is just incredible.
You just jump in like it's normal. It reminded me of at a racetrack when a car pulls in and a team jump out and they take the tire off and they fix it and they wipe them. That's how we would be when the meal bus would come. People would come in and grab the kettles and all the different stuff and get it in and grab the ice cream and the cookies, and then they would take off. It's pretty trippy. So let's stay in intermediate division. You know, in the beginning. Well, let me tell a story. How about that? I remember being at Iroquois, and you had been there for a little bit. I don't know how long, but I remember it started to snow. And I tell the same story to my daughter all the time. She's like, "Who are you interviewing?" I said, "My friend John. You remember me telling you the story about the kid who first saw snow for the very first time?" And she said, yes, I know who you're talking about, Dad. Do you remember?
Yeah, it had to be that first winter.
It was. It had to be. With the big bay windows.
Yes, yeah, and it was just for a kid from Florida. I never saw snow. Never like really traveled outside the state as a young kid. You know, I had a pretty, like all of us, had a pretty disruptive, crazy childhood. Yeah. So it's not like I was traveling and going skiing and stuff.
Right.
So seeing that first snow was,
pretty trippy.
And then going out and having your first snowball fight. We used to build those big forts in front of the carport there and tunnels and all that stuff.
Well, we would play all day. I mean, I at the risk of sounding like an old man, instead of being in front of your computer, or your laptop, or iPad, or whatever the kids are doing now, we would literally be out playing all day or running laps. Do you remember, Mr. May, if we would talk at night and we'd sit there and you'd whisper when the power's off, "Oh, did you see that girl today? She was super cute." And Mr. May would wear his soft moccasins and walk down the hallway.
Yeah,
and
he was
by
ninja.
your room and he'd say, "That's 20, baby." That's 30, baby.
But even in the winter though, we had wrestling mats, and we would do. I mean, we had Roddy Piper and Hulk Hogan. We were all, and then we'd go downstairs and reenactment. Superfly snooker. Do that stuff downstairs for hours.
Yeah,
like Sunday afternoons, just down there messing around in the basement. So there was never a dull moment with all those kids running around.
Let me ask you: are you still in contact with any Milts? Who would you say was your best friend or best friends or your clique? Or
I think some of the classmates like David Mosier, I'm still in touch with. He's doing real well. Lives down in Tampa in the insurance business. Got a wife and a couple kids. Eileen Martin.
Eileen just moved back into the area.
Just moved back, right? I caught up with her about a couple weeks ago.
Awesome.
But we interact back and forth. Jason Riggins.
Yeah.
Now Tashay.
Yeah.
Went back to his original name. Keep in touch with him. But I mean, Facebook is great. It's like, you don't feel as bad not calling people as much because you always seem to be like, just a click away.
Right,
and
you're just connected.
Yeah, you always stay connected. And Milts are like, you could go 10 years and you just walk into a room and it's like instantaneous. You can just pick off where you left off.
Absolutely. I mean, we hadn't talked for years. I think I remember running into you maybe once when you were at Penn.
Yeah.
And then I hadn't talked to you for years. And then our mutual friend Cliff, you guys were in some basketball league over in New Jersey. And I get a text from him. He's like, "You know John Mueller?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's my little brother." He's like, "Oh, we just played ball together." I'm like, "Oh, this is crazy."
Cliff. Somehow I got talked into running the entire basketball program for girls in Cherry Hill. So
All right.
there was a gentleman who was stepping down. My daughter just got into the sport as a third grader.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Hey, John, my kid's going to Camden Catholic next year. I need someone to do this." And I said, I don't know. It seems like a pretty big commitment. And they kind of, kept nudging me. And I decided to take it over. So, and that's where I met Cliff Kareem, because he's a longtime Cherry Hill guys. His son went to Cherry Hill East and actually almost made an NFL team.
I just heard that the other day. You were telling me. I had no idea.
Yeah, phenomenal athlete, All-American at Lafayette.
That's awesome.
And he's a neighbor of mine. And here we are you guys go way back. So his daughter's in the basketball and 6 degrees of South Jersey, they say. It
really is a small world. When I graduated, I moved back home to South Jersey for a little bit, and he and I worked at the post office together. But I'm talking about after the Milt. So after you graduated, Hershey, you wound up going to Penn for undergrad and Rutgers for law school. And I just mentioned that we ran into each other at Penn. How was that experience? Was it an easy transition coming out of the Milt? I know.
Milton Hershey transition into Penn. Well, not so much. It was hard. It was academically. I mean, I had good grades at Milton Hershey.
Oh yeah, you were
but
super smart.
it's good grades at Milton Hershey. It can't really translate. I had no idea what like sick wealth was.
Yeah.
And my roommate, he was from Coeur d'Alene, Idaho.
Okay.
And he went to a school called Gonzaga Prep. Right, real affluent.
Los Angeles?
Gonzaga, Washington.
Washington, okay.
And he had 16 kids in his graduating class at the school at Penn in the freshman class. And, but that was the 16 kids that, there's another 10 at Harvard and another, in my class, it was like extraordinary. Like I still to this day, I tell kids, I interview right now for Penn for application time.
You're still involved?
I'm still involved.
That's
and
awesome.
it's shocking. I have absolutely no idea. I think someone made a mistake. I said, we need a poor, lower middle class kid from Central PA, and I fit the bill. He's got all 5 fingers, 10 fingers, 10 toes. But yeah, it's insane the amount, the academics and the drive that my classmates had. It was really eye opening because I think at Milton Hershey, I always you kind of get by.
Yeah.
It was academic. I wouldn't say it was the same academic rigor.
Right.
I mean, you couldn't BS your way through it.
Yeah.
But at Penn, it was it's no joke. I mean, things were on the bell curve.
Yeah.
And so I was doing that. I was trying to be. Somehow I got talked in. A lot of people. I don't talk about this because when I talk about my athletic. At Milton Hershey, I tell people I was the definition of mediocrity.
Oh, so was I. On my best day, I was average.
I was a mediocre soccer player.
Yeah.
I finally started a handful of games as a senior, but I
right.
was very avid. I spent my 2 years in the JV. Got cut from the basketball team.
Right.
You saw my basketball game.
Oh, mine's worse than yours. So that's
so I ended up going to being a swimmer with Coach Lutz over on the swim team. But I got to college. And somehow, some way, this coach, Ray Del Bianco, back then you couldn't register for class online. You had to literally stand in line at the Student Union building in Houston Hall and psychology, there's one slot one slot in. I'm like, good. Well, this coach was down there just trolling around for people.
Right.
And he comes up to me and he goes, "Hey man, what's your name? What are you doing? What are you doing tomorrow?" He said, "Right outside here there's a bus. 3:30. I want you to get in that bus. It's going to take you down to the boathouse." And I was like, "A boathouse?" I said, I don't know. I was like, and I run to my roommate, and he's like, "Yeah, I ran into that guy too. I'm going." And I said, "Well,
right, cool.
shit, let's go."
Right.
So fast forward 4 years later, I rode for University of Penn. I walked on.
Down at Boathouse Road.
Walked on the lightweight crew. Back then I was 165 pounds, so not anymore. But anyway, I ended up walking on this team. There was all these recruited kids again, from Phillips Andover and Phillips Exeter and Hotchkiss and all these weird like schools. They were all rowing.
Right.
Forever.
It was life for them.
Yeah, so I ended up doing it. I was a novice, and then ended up making the varsity boat and rowing. Going to the Charles River to row big races. Headed to Charles, going to San Diego to row in a crew classic. So yeah, for somehow, some way, I didn't imagine it, but I became a Division I, athlete. And the coach told me, this guy. I was just fortunate. I mean, he just saw something in me, and he said, "Look, you are rough, ragged. You're a decent athlete, but you don't know a goddamn thing about rowing. We gotta work on this." He goes, if you want to be awesome, here's what I want you to do. I want you to stay in Philly over the summer, get some shitty job, serving pizza, whatever. Get anything you can. I want you to sleep at the St. Joe's Boathouse. They're not gonna charge you rent because there's gonna be 40 odd other people that are doing the same thing you are. I want you to wake up, hit the weights there. I want you to row twice a day, do your shitty job, drink beer, date girls, and have, but dedicate yourself to being. And I did that between my freshman and senior year.
And you saw it.
And then sophomore year, I showed up at Penn, and it was like, boom. And I peaked. Like I tell people, my sophomore year, I made the varsity boat as a sophomore. But and then I did. But our crew was the best, and that's where everything peaked. Next 2 years was rough and ragged, and then you start getting other interest. And I stuck with the team, but I wasn't. But I was laser focused that summer, and it was all because Coach Ray, who I still keep in contact with.
He challenged you.
Yeah, he saw something in me, and he said, "I want you to try this. It's not going to hurt you.
Right.
Check this out." And it was fun.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So after you graduated from Penn, you wound up staying in Philadelphia. Is that correct?
Well, not really.
Okay.
I had to go. We were talking before we started today. I joined ROT. I applied for an ROTC scholarship because I didn't have two nickels to rub together to go to college.
Well, let's stop. So let's talk about that. We were talking about it earlier. Back then, Milton Hershey School only provided a small percentage, and if you carried a B average, is that what it was?
Yeah, you had to have a B average, and I think you got $2,000 a year,
which wasn't.
And
much
you had to send in your report card, and it had to be like verified.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't recall carrying a B average. Somehow the check came anyway, and I was thankful because I was trying to keep it all together at Penn. But
ROTC.
So ROTC, I applied for a scholarship, and the bargain was they'll pay for 4 years of college, everything, right. And then you owe them 4 years of service. So back then, 1992, we just got done. The Gulf War. Top Gun wasn't, everything military, it was a 100-hour war. You go over there, beat up Saddam Hussein, everybody comes home, ticker tape parade.
Right.
Handful of people got hurt, military seemed like okay.
Right. You were with the Marines.
I was in the Marines.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, talking about people that step into your life, I was a naval ROTC and a major who was stationed at Penn. He was an instructor, and he's like, "John, you're not a Navy guy. You're a Marine. You're a Penn oarsman. You're a Marine. So quit kidding yourself."
You're like, okay.
And see, it's the Marines were like this subset. There was like 8 of us.
Okay.
And there was probably 80 kids. And Penn ROTC had kids from Temple. The Navy was based there, so you had Drexel.
LaSalle,
there was kids from Swarthmore taking
St.
the
Joe's.
Train in.
Okay.
So all these kids, those were like 100 kids, but there was like 8 of us that were Marines, which was an oxymoron. Like, I'm a Marine at Penn.
Right.
It's like, and you had to wear your uniform.
I'm a smart grunt.
You had to wear your uniform on Thursdays, which was drill day, and there was a lot of. A
lot of ribbon.
A lot of people, there's a lot of anti, military, anti.
Right, you got Ivy League
sentiments.
school, a lot of opinions.
Yeah, people, thinking you're a child killer or whatever you're, that kind of stuff. So you just dealt with it, and most of my friends, most people respected my service and stuff. But so I did that, and I got commissioned a couple weeks after graduation as a second lieutenant, and then I got shipped. I went to Quantico.
Wow.
And Quantico has a thing called the basic school where they take all the new lieutenants.
Okay.
And it's a 6-month course. And based on how you test at that course, it's like a 6-month college, a lot of classes, a lot of field time, a lot of physical fitness tests. They're kind of seeing what kind of person you are. Mm-hmm. And then they decide pretty much what your specialty is going to be.
Got it. They assess you.
You assess you. And part of it is you have some say, but they have more say.
Yeah, they're like, you have a choice between this one thing.
Yeah. So and that was exactly it. I went in the military thinking I was going to be a logistician or intelligence guy.
Right.
I was going to do my 4 years and then go on in the business or something.
What'd you wind
up? Well, again, they said, you're infantry. You're going in the Marine. You're going to be an infantry officer. And I was like,
you want to look at that report again? I
don't
know
so.
If you
No, but it was fun. I was drawn to it.
Mm-hmm.
Doing those things, leading people. I had stamina.
Mm-hmm.
There was leadership involved. I had all those things, so I was drawn to it, and I'm glad I did it. If I had to, if I'm going to spend 4 years in the Marines, I want to be jumping out of planes.
Yeah,
I want to be
you want to do it,
shooting guns, blowing things up. And thankfully, knock on wood, my service, although I did get reactivated briefly in 2003, it was very peaceful.
Right.
I was stationed all over the world. I lived in Japan for a year. I was on a amphibious ship in the Indian Ocean for 6 months.
That's
but
awesome. You
but
did
fortunately, it was peacetime.
Right.
A lot of my friends, have been on 4 and 5 deployments, who are my peers that
Okay.
are still in.
So wait, bring it back. So
Yeah.
when you were at Penn, weren't you pre-law?
Nope.
No. What was your major?
I was an international relations major.
Oh, so
Yeah.
the Marines kind of was a natural choice.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you make it to Rutgers, doing law?
Yeah, so I served 4 years in the Marines.
Mm-hmm.
Got out of the Marines, went into marketing.
Mm-hmm.
I was a marketing manager out in Westchester. There was a company called VWR International. It was scientific distribution.
Okay.
So I went. When you're a senior, I was a captain in the Marine Corps when I got out. They have these headhunter places where they bring all these officers, all different branches, and I ended up going to Chicago to meet all these companies that were looking at hiring, salesmen, entry level marketing, that things that you could go that they're looking for people that had military leadership experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I met this guy Kevin Leake in Chicago, and he was a vice president of marketing at this VWR. They sell beakers and test tubes and lab material to pharmaceuticals and high schools and colleges. I didn't know a thing about that industry. And
But what was he in compliance or something?
no, he was a marketing guy. He was just looking out to hire. He wanted some marketing analysts.
Okay.
So he said, "Do you know how to do spreadsheets?" And I was like, "I could figure it out." So I ended up moving back. I was living in California with the Marines. When I got out, I moved back. I lived in near Swarthmore, Wallingford is my first house, and I started working in Westchester. I did that for a couple years, and then got the itch and went to law school.
And how old are you at this point?
Let's see, I got out of the Marines when I was 25,
Okay.
26, and then did this for 2 years. So I think I went to law school when I was 28.
And did you go up in East Rutherford, or did you go in Camden?
No, Camden, Rutgers has, it used to have 2 different law schools. They've since combined them, and now they're known. But it used to be Rutgers Camden or Rutgers Newark. New Brunswick never had the law school. So now it's known, now it's just one law school with 2 campuses. But I went to Rutgers Camden.
So fast forward. Right now, you're an attorney at Mueller Attorney of Laws. Am I saying that right?
Well, this is hot off the press.
Okay. Give us the
I've
hot
been,
stuff here.
I've been working. I have a partner that I work with, and
who's an older gentleman.
Older
who's
gentleman,
a big brother to you.
Yes. So I've known him for many, many years.
What's his name?
His name's Bill Flahive.
Okay.
So Bill and I, we're getting ready to roll out a new law firm name and become, although we consider ourselves partners, we've been flying under his name, his banner. So we're going to be.
Well, he's very accomplished, right?
Yeah. Flahive and Mueller, attorneys at law. So that's going to roll out November 1.
Okay.
So you're getting it here, fresh off the press.
That's what I'm talking about.
That's
what I'm talking about.
But yeah, so we're doing all the paperwork, the operating agreements, all that. But we've worked well together, and our practice is really interesting. We do primarily counseling, employment counseling, and business counseling for small businesses and solo, small outfits. And then we do a lot of work for the state of New Jersey.
Okay.
Employment related matters. We do a lot of things I can't talk about. Investigations.
Right.
Like the Department of Corrections is looking into something going on. Mueller and Flahive, come down and interview. Let's do an investigation. Or there's an allegation of sexual harassment. Or there's an allegation of abuse or something.
Heavy stuff.
Yes. So we do a lot of investigations, a lot of litigation.
Which leads you and has you in Trenton a lot.
Yeah, I mean our home office is out at Lambertville.
Mm-hmm.
I work a lot out of my home office in Cherry Hill.
So let's stop.
Yeah.
I'm gonna transition right there. Cherry Hill. So that's where you live now.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about your family, your
Yes.
wife, and your kids? And...
So Melinda's my wife of 14 years.
Okay.
We met in law school. She was the smart girl a year ahead of me, who I got to borrow all her outlines.
Nice.
So that's the way for a guy to succeed is you find someone, an upperclassman. She just happened to be a female and good looking and all that to boot. So we met in law school, and got married, after law school. And
now
we moved into Barclay Farms in Cherry Hill.
Yep.
We bought a nice little house. We just love the neighborhood. Lots of sidewalks, lots of grass.
It's a great neighborhood. My brother lives there, as you know, and Cliff lives right next in the neighborhood over. Cherry Hill School. And then you have 2 beautiful children. What are their names?
Got 3.
3. I'm sorry, I missed one.
But now that's it.
You've been busy.
It's officially done.
Okay. Okay.
That's a malpractice suit. So I have Greta, who's a 6th grader.
Okay.
I've got JP,
Okay.
John Jr., who's a going in the 3rd grade.
Okay.
And then I've got Lulu. Louise is just starting kindergarten.
That's awesome.
And so it's exciting because Cherry Hill just came up with full day kindergarten.
Right, I heard about that.
Yeah, so it's a big deal for us because now we got all the kids in the school system. So
you can breathe a little bit.
Yeah.
You can breathe a little bit. And I know you've been super active and super involved with your kids' lives and coaching and all that stuff. Do you think Milton Hershey School affected you as a parent? And if so, how?
Yeah, it's interesting because it's a dynamic because the one thing I'll say about Milton Hershey, it was looking back on it, it was so safe.
Interesting.
It wasn't. I didn't consider it. It wasn't like a super loving place. Mm-hmm. Like we didn't get hugs.
No, it was tough love.
It was tough, but it was safe, and I thought it was fun, and it was very rigid though. It was, there's a lot of, parenting. You got to have a lot more softness. So you have to. I'm a first, and I tell people this. I'm a first generation parent. Because I didn't learn. I wasn't really parented by a natural father or mother. Mm-hmm. I mean, my dad abandoned me when I was 6. Right. And I wouldn't say my mother abandoned me, but it was a sense of,
you leave the house at an early age.
At 9, she basically had said it was the greatest decision that she ever made. Yeah. But she gave the parenting responsibilities to someone else who these house parents had to manage 12, 14, 16 other people. So there wasn't hugs and kisses and high fives going around. It was run like a military, like a platoon.
You're going to hear this a couple times, but I often compare it to being in the military.
Yes.
Being incarcerated and college wrapped in one. Because you're going away, you're leaving the house, you're getting stuck with people that you've never met before. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
All of these things you have no control over, and you either adapt or you die.
Right.
Pretty much, you don't make it. So.
But with parenting though, it's interesting because the things with chores, there's very important lessons, but you got new kids and the new, things change, the times change, so you got to kind of back away. And my wife grew up in a very completely stable. Her parents are fantastic. They're involved in everything that we do. So I think the biggest thing for me is I wanted my kids never. Like, I felt like I was always on the move as a kid. I was in 9 different elementary schools.
It's crazy.
Before I came to the Milt. And then I get to the Milt, and there was a little more stability, but then I just get to know the Mays at Iroquois, and then they say, hey, guess what? We're going to take it's another rip. They were good people. We're going to send you to the Dogwood with the Mazarics, who are also fantastic. But it was like, that was very upsetting.
Yeah.
And then you go to another student home.
Especially
so it's like you're constantly moving. And for me, it creates, uncertainty, anxiety.
Absolutely.
Things that you still try to cope with. And I was like, I want my kids stability at all costs. I want you to live in the same house as best as we can do it for the entire time. I'm not going to take jobs. I've been offered jobs. I'm not going to move. I'm not going to uplift. I mean, our community and our family, and that's what Milton Hershey. I mean, even though we move different homes and we go back to homecoming, it's that community. It means everything. So I think if I take anything, is being safe and dependable is how I would characterize Milton Hershey. And it's still, although the buildings, it's, got a couple new buildings down there, but the core, the feeling is still the same.
When you get off of the turnpike and you smell cow shit and chocolate.
chocolate,
it kicks in really quick. There's a nostalgia. Like we were just talking about, homecoming was last weekend, and it was, it doesn't matter how many times I go up. Every time I hit the town limits or the city limits, so to speak, you feel like you're home. And I think as I get older, I feel it even more. that feeling of home. And something special about it. There's
Yes.
something very special about it, and I know it affected me as a parent. I could never send my daughter to a because I want to be there. It's a different scenario. It's a different situation.
Yeah, and that's
I just see
things
it
like,
affected a lot of people differently.
Yeah, like kids sending their kids. We have a lot of people send their kids away all summer for camps and stuff. I'm like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way.
Like I can't. I couldn't
be away from. I'm the same
and
way.
it's like the same thing because it's almost like you internalize the homesickness, that we all felt, in different degrees and at different ages. It's like it would be like inflicting pain, even though they might be older and be ready for it more so than me. Maybe when they're older.
Maybe. Maybe.
But it's selfish. I want them. That's the joy of they're the joy of my day, the joy of my life. So it's like I wouldn't want to not wake up or not come home from work and not be able to see my kids.
Not be around them.
Yeah.
Let's take a break. We're back. We're here with John Mueller. For those of you who don't know, class of 92. It's funny because I always think of John as the class of 91. And we are at the Milt podcast talking to former Milton Hershey students and people who were involved with Milton Hershey School. And we're talking about their experiences and what they're doing now. So, John, one of the last things I wanted to talk to you about is you recently had a loss. I'm very sorry. Your little sister who was actually a Milt. And I just wanted to talk to you about how that affected you. But more importantly, I know you told me a lot of Milts rallied around you and you really appreciated that. Could you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, Kathy left us on August 14th this year. And we could do a whole podcast about depression, addiction, mental health, but she wanted to find peace, and I've been very open about it because she drove up to the top of a 6th floor parking garage in downtown Frederick, Maryland, and took her own life. We all had, Kathy had very strained relationships with her family and a lot of her friends, but we all knew that down deep, down there, against, beneath all that turmoil, was a loving, caring,
sweet,
super special person. Kathy's best years, she was diagnosed with bipolar manic depression in her early 20s. So for Milton Hershey, it was her best years.
Right.
She was a very popular, beautiful, talented, diving on the dive team, playing field hockey, doing all these things, singing, piano, look back on it, she was like, if you look at the popularity of John Mueller, I was known as the book, nerdy book guy,
Smart one. Right.
And Kathy was,
she was the social one.
She was, Marilyn Monroe,
right.
She had the full package. Everybody wanted to be around her. She was the life of the party. And people remember, I can't erase the last 20 years of Kathy's struggles as an adult. But I remember her as a dynamic, as a young woman at Milton Hershey, just kicking it out of the park. Mm-hmm. And everybody, it was a shock and a blow to the collective Milton Hershey family and her classmates, because it's like everything else. We all go off in our separate lives and we're doing other things. Yeah. And we're brought back to our high school and middle school years, and you remember this girl. And it kind of reminds you. I think the biggest thing is it reminds you of your own mortality. Yeah. To lose someone in your own class, and I've unfortunately lost a few members of my own class. Bobby Nichols.
I remember Bobby Nichols.
Yeah,
I didn't know he passed.
And Dave Pepka recently.
That's right, Dave Pepka.
So it's like when one of your, and I'm 40, gonna be 45. Yeah. It's like when classmates go, it's just too soon.
Yeah.
And when your sister goes, your kid's sister, it's just, so the people have been fantastic. Lots of personal, just the, you're dealing with your own feelings when you lose lose someone suddenly. But then you also the pressure of having to respond and do it in a way that's respectful, that honors her life, and also give people, you owe them something. They want a piece of Kathy, and I feel like I need to honor. This is what Kathy would want. So it's been taxing.
I can only imagine how to process something like that. I know we talked about just dealing with your immediate family.
Yes.
And how that played out, and getting back to all the Milts on Facebook or people who've reached out to you, and taking time for yourself to process the whole thing. I just know as a Milt and your bigger brother, I've reached out to you. I got nothing but love for you, and I'm always here.
Oh yeah, sure.
I think a lot of Kathy's friends are the same. I know Eileen was very concerned about you and reached out, and it's just hopefully there's some comfort there knowing that you're not by yourself.
Yeah, and I got my wife, before she decided to go go to law school, she was a counselor. She got a counseling, so she's my best friend, and she's been there, every step, talking through this. I mean, it's literally when you get that phone call. I happened to be up we were taking our summer vacation.
Right, you were telling me.
Yeah,
that.
I was literally sitting on the edge of a lake in front of a fire pit when I get a call, and this call kept coming, and there was a voicemail from a detective in Frederick saying, "Hey, I really need to speak to you."
Right.
And I've received over the course of Kathy's life probably 50 similar calls, whether it's from the Miami Metro-Dade Police Force, the New Jersey State Police. There's been calls. So it's, for me, it was just another call concerning my sister, and what did she get herself into now? And I'm on vacation, so
you like it to wait.
Yeah. So, but the tone of his message, and then receiving that news over the phone,
I can't.
My family was right there. I mean, we're literally just got done, roasting marshmallows.
Yeah,
you couldn't pick a more, there's never an appropriate place, but the basket of, somewhere for me to fall back on was just waiting for me. I mean, we cried and we hugged, and my kids can't. My daughter's 6th grade. She's kind of understanding, but my two, they don't understand. What just, like, here we are laughing one minute, and then all of a sudden mom and dad are like in
bawling
tears, and like, where's the next bottle of wine? It's like they couldn't process. And like, we had plans the next day, and I forget what we had on our schedule, some fun vacation thing. And I said, you know what I need? Greta, I want to go. We did a bike ride, 18 miles, Greta and I, slow. It's not like we were racing it or anything, but I said, I just want to be in the woods. I want to be away from, I don't want my damn phone, because it's starting to ring, you got to deal with all that. Yeah. I said, I got to process this. I just want to be in the woods with my daughter, and ride along the Lehigh River, and that was very therapeutic. I mean, that was really nice, because how do you talk to a 6th grade that their aunt just did this, and we don't mince words. It wasn't. My wife and I are like, we're not going to like hide this from them. We're very upfront and open about everything, not only, about, sexuality, about addiction, drug use, vulgarity.
It does them a disservice when you're not.
So our parenting style is to be very open. Mm-hmm. And so we're not going to sit there and say Kathy went away on a vacation or a trip or no, here's what happened.
Right.
The police officer said that she drove up to the top of this parking garage, and they watched videotape. There was, you have a million questions when you get this information, and no, he said this is what happened. We have video. She literally drove up there, opened the car door, stepped up. There was no hesitation. It's not like she was up there having a cigarette and like lost her balance or something. It was,
But you did the most important thing, and that was connect to your daughter and be there for her, and tell her how much you love her, and relay that love, and I mean, I think that's all you can do at that point.
Yeah, and we continue to talk about it. It's Kathy was kind of this mythical person.
She was the super aunt
She
who
would
popped
fly
in
in
and-
like a
right.
Valkyrie every couple years, and my kids would be like, "Who is that? Who is that crazy person?"
Right.
She'd have her vape pen.
Right.
She'd be vaping.
Right.
There's like this vanilla scented patchouli smell lingering my house. There would be, bottles of. She would like take bottles of wine herself up to her room in the guest room, and they would be hanging out. She was like, so she was kind of this mythical character, larger than life, always a ton of fun. And so yeah, we're processing it still, this loss. And but the Milts have been great, and I know a lot of people are hurting about this, and we're going to continue to hurt. And in time, hopefully, we heal.
Well, we love you, and we're here, and we're really happy that you came out and shared with us today. It means a lot to us. You're our first. You're our first, brother. So
it's an honor.
Yeah, man. We're starting off on the right foot, and we'd love to have you back maybe down the road. It'd be nice to have you.
And there's a lot of Milts out there.
There's a lot of Milts. Hopefully, we can get everybody.
And there's a lot of good stories out there. So don't come back for me. I think I've spent up all the material that I have in here has been spent today. So
though he just came in, Warner's here, Justin's here. Down the road, I think eventually we'd like to have it where it's kind of a studio audience. It'd be nice to have some other Milts, a collective energy.
Yes.
So maybe down the road we'll get to that. We'll bring you in with your crew.
All right. Good. Yeah.
Be good. All right. Thanks for coming, John Mueller, class of 1992.